Hi, my name is John Lockyer. I'm an independent curator and writer. I'm also a Trent alumni in class of '04 in Lady Eaton College. I'm here today to talk about the Trent University Art Collection, specifically a sub-collection within the larger body of work, which focuses on the work of Anishinaabe artists. This work has come into the Trent University Art Collection through a variety of means. And what we're going to talk about on this particular tour focuses on Anishinaabe art, specifically produced since the 1950s. It falls into the realm of contemporary Indigenous art. It's a sample of work produced by Anishinaabe artists living and working in what we now call Canada. But it's by no means a comprehensive account of the artwork that is produced by Anishinaabe artists during this time. There are, like many collections, some glaring omissions within this collection. You'll notice in this tour, and in the collection specifically, that there is no work by Anishinaabe women, and that, to a degree, reflects the sensibilities of the time when this collection was being put together, but by no means reflects the importance of women such as Rebecca Belmore, Bonnie Devine, Daphne Ojig, Maria Hupfield, who have made massive contributions to the field as Anishinaabe women. I'm standing in front of two works by Carl Beam, who is an Ojibwe artist who was born in Chigang, in what we know as Manitoulin Island. Beam lived in Peterborough, Nogajiwanong for a period of time in the 1980s and into the 1990s. And during that time created a substantial body of work that greatly influenced the work we see here today, and is well represented within the Trent University Art Collection. These pieces that are in the gathering space are two large-scale multimedia works that incorporate watercolor, printmaking, and stenciling, which were hallmarks of Beam's practice for much of his career. Both of these works are great representations of where Beam's practice was during their time of creation. You'll see throughout the collection that printmaking was a significant part of Beam's creative process, and was very unique to the time that he was creating as an Indigenous artist. What we'll see in contrast to, in terms of Anishinaabe work, is work by artists such as Norman Knott, the Kakagamic brothers, and Norval Morrisseau, who worked in what we know as the woodland style. That has become synonymous with Anishinaabe artists and artistic production, especially from the 1950s into the present day. Those artists that I just mentioned have become hallmarks of that school of work. And so what we really see in this collection is kind of the duality that exists within Anishinaabe art practices. You have the work of Beam, which when viewing it, you read as contemporary, as clearly influenced by European art practices. And then you have the work of Morrisseau, the Kakagamic family, Norman Knott, and others who were influenced by traditional Anishinaabe imagery and the stories of their people. That's not to say, though, that Beam was not equally influenced by his culture, by the work of his predecessors, such as Morrisseau. The only difference is that he realized this work with different aesthetic sensibilities. And what I would argue is that there is no one style of Anishinaabe art. Anishinaabe art is art made by Anishinaabe people. It is informed by their culture, their worldview, and their lived experiences. And that, in this collection, is really what unites all of these works. So we're here in room 102 right now, and this is the gathering space, which is not always accessible to the general public, but if you're able to enter here to view the work, you'll see works first by Arthur Schilling, the self-portrait. Next to Schilling's work, you'll see Norval Morrisseau's Person with Hat. And then across the room, you'll see two works by Carl Beam, Untitled and Neoglyph 2. So we're here in room 102. I'm standing in front of a work by Norval Morrisseau. This work represented a real shift in his work from working on smaller scale to much larger scale, introducing brighter colors and what became known as his X-ray style. So incorporating the transparencies and the shapes that Morrisseau's work would start to integrate into much larger works of art. This is an excellent example kind of from Morrisseau's mid-career period. From here he would start to produce much larger works of art that he's really become synonymous with through the 90s and into the later stages of his life. From here, we'd ask that you exit room 102 and head down the hall towards room 111. As you walk down the hall, you'll see several works by Norman Knott, as well as smaller print works by Carl Beam. So as we move down the hall, you're gonna encounter two works by Norman Knott, both on your left-hand side. Knott's work figures prominently into the art collection and into this exhibition. His body of work and output as an artist is quite prolific. Norman's work is often categorized as part of the Woodland School, but you'll see is quite different from the aesthetic sensibilities of his contemporary Norval Morrisseau. Knott uses finer lines and more elaborate detailing in his subjects, but much like Morrisseau is interested in exploring the natural world through his work. There are several other pieces by Knott across campus, which you may be able to see if rooms are available to you. But these works in particular are a great example of Knott's body of work. So as we move past works by Norman Knott, we'll come to two works by Carl Beam that are part of a series of 4 prints that the artist produced in the 1990s while living here in Peterborough. The first piece is Traffic, and the next piece across from room 110 is titled Family. These prints utilize a series of images that Beam used in repetition throughout the majority of his artistic practice, and include traffic lights and a raven in the case of Traffic. And in the case of Family, actually integrate family portraits as well as animals from the natural world like turtles. Throughout Beam's artistic practice, he often would locate images of either himself or his family alongside images of either pop culture or significant events that have happened throughout history, as a way of orienting himself within the larger world, both as an Anishinaabe man and as he would view himself, a citizen of the world as well. Okay, we're going to move on and head south towards the ramp and the south entrance of the college. And we're going to look at three works, all birds, by Roy Thomas, Josh Kakagamic, and Saul Williams. Again, these three artists all work in what we understand to be the Woodland School. As you'll see by all three of these works, each artist takes a very, very different approach to how they realize their work, and while they can be aesthetically grouped together, they are ultimately an individual expression of each of these Anishinaabe artists' views of the natural world. We have work by two of the Kakagamic brothers in our collection here at Trent, Josh and Roy Kakagamic. The family in the early 1980s started the Triple K Cooperative, which was an Anishinaabe-run print shop that allowed practicing artists to create gallery-quality prints of their work that could be sold on the commercial market. This allowed artists to learn printmaking skills, but to also control the ways in which their work was distributed on the print market. By the 1980s, this had become a very competitive market for sale and resale of work by Anishinaabe artists, specifically those working in the Woodland School. And the Kakagamic brothers' initiative allowed these artists to earn a fair living through their artistic production. This was a revolutionary move at that time and created a degree of autonomy for these artists that had not been seen up to that point. There are several works by Josh and Roy in this work. We've talked about one of those works so far. There are several works on level one of the college in classrooms that may or may not be accessible to you depending on when you are doing this tour. But we would encourage you to look at works by Carl Beam, Roy Kakagamic, and Norval Morisseau on the first level of Zosky in rooms 110, 111, 114, 115, and 117. So from here, we're going to go up to level 3. You can access either by the stairs or by the elevator, and we're going to look for 3 works in the hallway of level 3. One work by Norval Morisseau called Bear Power, another work by Carl Beam titled Flux, which is part of the print series that we have already looked at on level 1, and a third work by Josh Kakagamic titled Loon, which has become an iconic image here at Zosky College. These 3 works are, again, aesthetically quite different from each other, but represent that diversity of Anishinaabe art practices that we've discussed up to this point here on the tour. Carl Beam's Flux is part of a series of screen-printed works that the artist produced in the late 1990s. The series of 4 is represented here in the art collection, and Flux is notable for its use of Christian and scientific imagery juxtaposed against one of the only known and verified portraits of Christopher Columbus, an individual who figured prominently into the bulk of Beam's work. There was actually here in Peterborough a major exhibition hosted by the Art Gallery of Peterborough and Art Space called the Columbus Suite, which took its focus from Columbus's landing in the present-day Americas in 1492. Beam would use that moment and Columbus as an individual to interrogate the entirety of Western culture and the belief systems that came with it. This work examines how both science and religion came to categorize and compartmentalize the natural world, as evidenced by still frames of a caribou running, as well as a dissected raven skin and skull. Visually heavy and intimidating, this work was a great representation of who Carl Beam was as an artist through much of his career, and what his work as an Anishinaabe artist seek to interrogate. That concludes this portion of the tour. I'd encourage you now to head down to the second floor in the Peter Robinson Dining Hall to view a large format mural by artist Tia Kavanaugh, and hear Kavanaugh speak a bit about her work.
Ani, Bojo, Tia Indijnakash, Makwa Dodem, Sagamak and Dunjaba, Anishinaabe Kwe and Dao. Hello, my name is Tia Kavanaugh, and I'm Anishinaabe of mixed ancestry, and I'm originally from Sagamak First Nation. I'm a multidisciplinary artist using materials such as paint, wood, fabric, sculpture, and projection. For me, storytelling, process, discovery, and new meaning are at the core of art making. With these aspects at the root, I continue to explore approaches and understanding through the creative lens of an Indigenous woman drawing upon Indigenous research methodologies. I want to take you on a visual guide of the narrative of my mural, which is situated in the Nying Dining Hall. Let's begin by looking at the left-hand side of the mural. On the bottom, the being that you're looking at is a representation of the Creator. The Creator is blowing bubbles and using a solution that resides in the copper pot. The purple eyeball creatures ascend up the stairs towards a brave leap into that copper pot. In the copper pot, the creatures are then reimagined into a solution that is used to create those bubbles. The color purple represents the spirit in my culture. So these eyeball beings represent not only the individual, but they represent an idea, a path, a change. So does this journey begin with the Creator blowing bubbles? Or is it the never-ending cycle of the purple creatures that represents spirit offering themselves? This notion of cyclical rebirth provides us with a powerful framework for building strength in community. I want you to really look at each purple eyeball creature. Is there a sense of determination, hope, peace, or even fear among them? The Creator blows these bubbles out into the world, this world being of the conscious and subconscious. And this is possible because of spirit. The sky realm, the water realm, the earth realm, the star realm. These are the many paths and roles that the spirit takes, and those are now represented by circles within my mural. Humor, mischief, and a sense of play might seem like odd approaches when speaking on community and spirit, but I assure you, We Anishinaabeg have always utilized these in our stories, and when we see them, we often see them represented in the animals and nature as well. The underwater community that you will see in my mural, within it there are high-rises, teepees, and there's even an ode to the smokestacks in Sudbury. When I think of where I'm from and Sudbury, Ontario, a smell replaces thought. Underwater represents the subconscious in this work, a realm that is always there and one that we might get stuck in. I wanted some of the meaning and intentionality to remain a mystery in this mural. I wanted to allow the viewer to add their own meaning, to create some wondering and wandering, to enjoy a sense of play and narrative is reflected in the meaning of Anhwayang. Because Anhwayang is not just the name of a building, but it's an action and a responsibility to one another. So I hope you enjoy finding meaning and holding space for my mural. Miigwech.